There is a pattern. It doesn't care which empire you are. It doesn't care how powerful your military is, how advanced your technology is, or how long your civilization has been running. Every empire that has ever held the world's reserve currency has eventually lost it. And before they lost it, they all did the same things. Not similar things, the same things. Spain did them, the Dutch did them, Britain did them, and if you know what to look for, you can see them happening right now. This is not a prediction. It is a pattern that has repeated across 500 years of financial history. The names change, the currencies change, the geography changes, the sequence doesn't. And here is why this matters to you directly. The last time this pattern completed, the country that lost reserve currency status spent the next 30 years watching its living standards quietly decline, while its politicians told everyone things were basically fine. That country was Britain. The country currently in the same position is America. And the sequence is further along than most people realize. Start with Spain. In the 1500s, Spain controlled more of the world's wealth than any empire before it. The silver mines of Potosi and modern Bolivia were producing so much metal that Spanish ships could barely carry it all home. The Spanish real became the world's first truly global currency, used from Manila to Mexico City to the markets of the Ottoman Empire. If you wanted to trade anywhere on earth, you needed Spanish silver. Then Spain made the first mistake. When you control the world's money, you stop worrying about earning it. Spain began spending its silver faster than the mines could produce it. Wars in the Netherlands, wars against England, wars to hold an empire that kept getting more expensive to defend. By 1607, Spain defaulted on its government debt for the first time. It would default 6 more times before the century was over. The silver kept coming in, but it kept going out faster, and slowly, quietly, the merchants of Europe started looking for somewhere else to put their trust. They found it in Amsterdam. The Dutch Republic in the 1600s was everything Spain wasn't. Small, disciplined, commercially obsessed, they built the first modern stock exchange, the first central bank, the first system of tradable government bonds. The Dutch guilder became the reserve currency of the world not because the Dutch had the biggest army. They didn't. It became dominant because Dutch institutions were trustworthy. Their debt paid back, their contracts held. For nearly 200 years, the guilder ran global trade. Then the Dutch made the same mistakes Spain had made. Wars with England, wars with France, military overreach in Asia and the Americas. The cost of defending their trade empire started exceeding the profits from running it. By the mid-1700s, the Dutch were borrowing heavily to maintain what they had built. The guilder didn't collapse. It just slowly stopped being chosen. By 1800, it was Britain's turn. Britain's story is the most important because it's the most recent, and because America is repeating it almost exactly. Sterling became the world's dominant reserve currency in the mid-1800s, backed by gold and the reach of the British Empire. At its peak, Britain controlled roughly a quarter of the world's land and a third of global trade. Then came the sequence. The Boer War revealed cracks in the imperial machine. The First World War turned Britain from the world's largest creditor into one of its largest debtors. By 1944, Britain was so financially exhausted that Keynes arrived at Bretton Woods essentially asking for help. He proposed a shared international currency. America refused. The dollar took everything. But here is what most people miss. Sterling was still the world's second reserve currency well into the 1960s. The decline took decades. And every year of that decline, Britain made the same choice: defend the currency's status at the expense of the domestic economy, raise interest rates to protect sterling rather than lower them to help workers, cut spending to maintain credibility rather than invest to rebuild. The currency status became a trap. The harder they held on, the more it cost them. Now look at the pattern clearly. Stage 1. The empire builds genuine dominance. Its currency earns reserve status through real economic and institutional strength. Stage 2. The privilege arrives: cheap borrowing, permanent deficits. The bills don't come due yet. Stage 3. Overreach. Military commitments expand. The cost of maintaining the empire grows faster than the economy can support it. Stage 4. Debt accumulates. The empire borrows to maintain what it built rather than build new things. Stage 5. The defense. Every policy bends toward protecting the reserve currency. The domestic economy pays the price. Stage 6. The lag. The currency holds on long after the fundamentals have shifted. This is the most dangerous stage because it creates the illusion that the decline isn't happening. Stage 7. The handover. Not a crash, a transition. Spain to Dutch, Dutch to British, British to American. The same 7 stages. Every time. The question is not whether America is in this sequence. It is. America's debt is approaching $37 trillion. Annual interest payments now exceed the entire defense budget. The government is borrowing roughly $2 trillion per year just to cover existing commitments. That's stage 4. Stage 5 is also visible. The petrodollar system, the sanctions regime, the treasury market, all being defended not because they generate new American strength, but because abandoning them would mean admitting decline. Stage 6 is where most of the debate lives. Is the dollar holding on past its fundamental justification? The countries repatriating gold think so. The nations settling oil in yuan think so. The debt ceiling crises suggest even some Americans think so. The lag can last a long time. Sterling's lag lasted 30 years. But the lag is not stability. It's the last chapter before the handover. Here is what the pattern does not tell you. It doesn't tell you exactly when. Sterling's decline took from roughly 1914 to 1976, over 60 years from the first serious wound to the IMF bailout. The process is slow enough that most people living through it never feel like they are watching history. They just feel like things are a bit harder than before, more expensive, less certain, slightly smaller in ways that are difficult to name. That is what reserve currency decline feels like from the inside. Not a crash, not a sudden shock, a slow, steady reduction in options. The empires that recognize the pattern early enough to act survived the transition with their institutions intact. The ones that didn't spent their final decades defending a status the underlying economy could no longer support. The warning signs are not subtle. They are the same signs that appeared in Madrid in 1600, in Amsterdam in 1720, in London in 1930. Debt growing faster than the economy, military commitments costing more than they return, a currency defended by political will rather than economic reality. The pattern doesn't care which empire you are. It never has. The next video looks at the empire that went through all 7 stages, rebuilt itself across 2 centuries, and is now positioned to go through them one more time. That video is already up. Link is in the description.